Namaste. My name is Janapati Das, and welcome to the Sri Ishopanishad class. And we will be reading through Canto 1. Actually, we're still in the introduction of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Canto 1, but we are reading the introduction. And so please accept my respects. Thank you for tuning in. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, Jagadguru, and my spiritual grandfather, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who, of course, translated the Srimad Bhagavatam and purported upon it so nicely. Very excited about doing these classes. So let's, as instructed by our spiritual masters, to hear and chant the names of Krishna. Please join along. Namo Siddha Swarupananda Amamsa Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prishtaya Namo Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Karuna Swarupaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhar Srivasudeva Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhar Srivasudeva Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribo Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my most humble obeisances unto him. So, we are continuing from the introduction by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and we're learning the biography of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the Lord advented himself in the Falguni Purnima evening of 1407 Shakabda, and it was by the will of the Lord that there was a lunar eclipse on that evening. During the hours of eclipse, it was custom of the Hindu public to take bath in the Ganges or any other sacred river and chant the Vedic mantras for purification. When Lord Chaitanya was born during the lunar eclipse, all India was roaring with the holy sound of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. These 16 names of the Lord are mentioned in many Puranas and Upanishads, and they are described as the Talaka Brahma Nama of this age. It is recommended in the Shastras that offenseless chanting of these holy names of the Lord can deliver a fallen soul from material bondage. There are innumerable names of the Lord both in India and outside, and all of them are equally good because all of them indicate the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But because these 16 are especially recommended for this age, people should take advantage of them and follow the path of the great acharyas who attained success by practicing the rules of the Shastras, revealed scriptures. The simultaneous occurrence of the Lord's appearance and the lunar eclipse indicated the distinctive mission of the Lord. This mission was to preach the importance of chanting the holy names of the Lord in this age of Kali, quarrel. In this present age, quarrel takes place even over trifles, and therefore the Shastras have recommended for this age a common platform for realization, namely chanting the holy names of the Lord. So people are extremely disturbed mentally because of the intense, sorry, I'm just going to straighten that, intense political situation that we find ourselves in, where people are so agitated mentally by conflict. It's the age of quarrel, chaos, and confusion. All they feel they can do is dive deeper and quarrel more and have more conflict and fight in the streets and try to force people to get to their political opinion or whatever. If you have a different political opinion, or if you just have a different way of doing things. We're just in an age of quarreling. And this is one of why they call this the age of quarrel and confusion, of Kali Yuga, the Iron Age. People can hold meetings to glorify the Lord in their respective languages and with melodious songs, and if such performances are executed in an offenseless manner, it is certain that the participants will gradually attain spiritual perfection without having to undergo more rigorous methods. So in the age of Kali, with the chaos and quarrel, people engage in a deeper and deeper quarrel and chaos, thinking they will force people to succumb to their solution, or try to force a solution, force the hand. Whereas people can spend their time chanting Krishna's names, which is much more enjoyable and much more unifying to actually chant the names of God. And it's said that Lord Chaitanya has said that the material world and the troubles that we experience are like crows that sit on your shoulder and weigh you down. And you just keep adding these crows that keep coming, and they're just like, oh. But then when you can get together and you can chant the names of Krishna and you clap your hands and you say, Haribo, Haribo, and the crows of despondency fly off your shoulders and you are happy. So this is why this age is, we've been reading in the Bhagavad Gita the previous ages of different kinds of meditation, where you would meditate sit on a deer skin in the forest and focus on your nose, and you do certain kinds of steps in the yogic process, which are very difficult in this day and age. We can't even stop fighting with each other. We just are triggered by so many things. So we're given a very easy thing to do with that Lord Chaitanya gave us, and that is the chanting. People like to sing, people like to dance, people like to get together and, associate. So kirtan is the greatest benediction for humanity, because it's not only fulfills all these things that we want in this to do, dancing, singing, getting together, it also is a purifying effect. It actually clears our heart. It touches us in our heart, which is something that nothing else really can achieve to that level. And certainly not fighting online in a social media post or whatever, or going out on the street and banging our drums and getting in conflicts with people. This is what we see in the news. Really what people should do is have a kirtan through all these protests and let people join. We have this side of this people, Israelis, pro-Israel or pro-Palestine. They can come together and chant Krishna's names together and realize their true nature as brothers and sisters, spirit souls, neither Palestinians nor Israelis. People can hold meetings to glorify the Lord in their respective languages. So, if you want to chant Krishna's names, and then, write prayers of the prayers in Hebrew or in Arabic. There are people who chant Krishna's names all over the world, and they have to communicate in their own respective languages, but they chant Krishna's names. They may write their prayers in their own language, but they may translate the scriptures in their own language, but they chant Krishna's names. And if such performances are executed in an offenseless manner, it is certain that the participants will gradually attain spiritual perfection without having to undergo more rigorous methods. At such meetings, everyone, the learned and the foolish, the rich and the poor, the Hindus and the Muslims, the Englishmen and the Indians, and the Chandalas and the Brahmanas can all hear the transcendental sounds and thus cleanse the dust of material association from the mirror of the heart. To confirm the Lord's mission, all the people in the world will accept the holy name of the Lord as a common platform for the universal religion of mankind. In other words, the advent of the holy name took place along with the advent of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Beautiful. So, yeah, we can all chant Krishna's names together and cleanse our heart of all this dust of envy and anger and hatred. When the Lord was on the lap of his mother, he would at once stop crying as soon as the ladies surrounding him chanted the holy name and clapped their hands. This peculiar incident was observed by neighbors with awe and veneration. Sometimes the young girls took pleasure in making the Lord cry and then stopping him by chanting the holy name. So from his very childhood, the Lord began to preach the importance of the holy name. So that was, when he was a child, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would he would just cry until the ladies would chant Hari Hari, Hari Krishna, and then he would stop. In his early age, Lord Sri Chaitanya was known as Nimai. The name was given by his beloved mother because Lord took birth beneath a nimba tree, in the courtyard of his paternal house. That was a neem tree. Neem tree was a Peace Corps volunteer. I used to try to get farmers to grow these. They didn't really want to grow them because they would propagate. They would send the roots out, and the roots would propagate new trees out in their farm. They would get upset about that. But neem tree is a very special. They call it a miracle tree because it's got so many properties for uses. When the Lord was offered solid food at the age of 6 months in Annaprasana ceremony, the Lord indicated his future activities. At this time, it was customary to offer the child both coins and books in order to get some indication of the further tendencies of the child. The Lord was offered on one side coins, and on the other side the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Lord accepted the Bhagavatam instead of the coin. So this is an old Vedic. You can do this with children, new babies. You put a Bhagavad Gita on one side and you put money on the other side. And so whatever the baby goes for to grab, that is where his propensities will be. I think I did that with my children. I don't really remember what they went for, but when he was a mere baby crawling in the yard, one day a snake appeared before him, and Lord began to play with it. All the members of the house were struck with fear and awe, but after a while the snake went away, and the baby was taken away by his mother. It's actually said that was Anantasesha, Lord Balaram, or Nityananda. And he wrapped the baby Krishna up. Baby Lord Chaitanya. Once he was stolen by a thief who intended to steal his ornaments, but the Lord took a pleasure trip on the shoulder of the bewildered thief, who was searching for a solitary place in order to rob the baby. It so happened that the thief wandered hither and thither and finally arrived just before the house of Jagannath Mishra, and being afraid of being caught, dropped the baby at once. Of course, the anxious parents and relatives were glad to see the lost child. So it's thieves were like, ooh, Lord Chaitanya's beautiful, and he's got all these gems and things on him, and so we'll just take him off into the forest somewhere and rob him and leave him there. But Lord Chaitanya, being Krishna, knew what was going on and bewildered the person to walk back in a loop and end up back at his father's house. And then he saw that, I got back. It's like, what is that? There was some kind of horror movie. I can't remember the name of what it was called, but a while ago, maybe 20 years ago, it came out, and they filmed it. They filmed it with just a regular camera, so it made it seem as witches of something or another. But anyway, they were trying to get away, but they would always end up backwards. But anyway, that's not really a major point. But the main point is that Krishna bewildered the thieves to end up back at his parents' house, because he's like, okay, this is fun, you can take me for a while, but I want to come back to my house. Once a pilgrim Brahmana was received at the house of Jagannath Mishra, and when he was offering food to the Godhead, the Lord appeared before him and partook of the prepared food. The eatables had to be rejected because the child touched them. So Lord Chaitanya with Lord Krishna, so he's taking the offerings, but then the Brahmana is like, oh, we can't offer it to Krishna because this child has already eaten part of it. The eatables had to be rejected because the child touched them. And so the Brahmana had to make another preparation. The next time the same thing happened, and when this happened repeatedly for the third time, the baby was finally put to bed. At about 12 at night, when all the members of the house were fast asleep within their closed rooms, the pilgrim Brahmana offered his specially prepared foods to the deity. And in the same way, the baby Lord appeared before the pilgrim and spoiled his offerings. The Brahmana then began to cry, but since everyone was fast asleep, no one could hear him. At that time, the baby Lord appeared before the fortunate Brahmana and disclosed his identity as Krishna himself. The Brahmana was forbidden to disclose this incident, and the baby returned to the lap of his mother. So, Krishna, being the trickster, kept taking the food, but he was compassionate to the Brahmana and was able to show his form as Krishna. There are many similar incidents in his childhood. As a naughty boy, he sometimes used to tease the orthodox Brahmanas who used to bathe in the Ganges. When the Brahmanas complained to his father that he was splashing them with water instead of attending school, the Lord suddenly appeared before his father as though he was just coming from school with all his school clothes and books. At the bathing grotto, he used to play jokes with the neighboring girls who engaged in worshiping Shiva in hopes of getting good husbands. This is a common practice amongst unmarried girl and Hindu families. When they were engaged in such worship, the Lord not only appeared before them and said, "My dear sisters, please give me all the offerings you have just brought for Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is my devotee, and Parvati is my maidservant. If you worship me, then Lord Shiva and all the demigods will be more satisfied." Some of them refused to obey the naughty Lord, and he would curse them that due to their refusal they would be married to old men who had 7 children by their previous wives. Out of fear and sometimes out of love, the girls would offer him various goods, and then the Lord would bless them and assure them that they would have very good young husbands and that they would be mothers of dozens of children. The blessings would enliven the girls, but they used to often complain of these incidents to their mothers. So this is very funny. Like Lord Krishna used to steal all the elder gopis' ghee and feed it to the monkeys, and they would complain it. But then when Mother Yasoda said, "Well, I'll beat him, or I'll stop him from," and then they realized, no, don't make it, don't punish the Lord from coming around, so we won't be able to see him. In this way, the Lord passed his early childhood. When he was just 16 years old, he started his own Chatushpati, a village school conducted by a learned Brahmana. In this school, he would simply explain Krishna even in readings of grammar. Srila Jiva Goswami, in order to please the Lord, later composed a grammar in Sanskrit in which all the rules of grammar were explained with examples that used the holy names of the Lord. This grammar is still current. It is known as Hari Namarita Vyakalana and is prescribed in the syllabus of schools in Bengal. During this time, a great Kashmir scholar named Keshava Kashmiri came to Navadvip to hold discussions on the Shastras. The Kashmir Pandit was a champion scholar, and he had traveled to all places of learning in India. Finally, he came to Navadvip to contest the learned Panditas there. The Panditas of Navadvip decided to match Nimai Pandit, Lord Chaitanya, with the Kashmir Pandit, thinking that if Nimai Pandit were defeated, they would have another chance to debate with the scholar. Because Lord Chaitanya was defeating everybody around him. So, for Nimai Pandit was only a boy. And if the Kashmir Pandit was defeated, then they would be even more glorified, because people would proclaim that a mere boy of Navadvip had defeated a champion scholar who was famous throughout India. It so happened that Nimai Pandit met Keshava Kashmiri while strolling on the banks of the Ganges. The Lord requested him to compose a Sanskrit verse in praise of the Ganges. And the Pandit, within a short time, composed 100 shlokas. And a shloka, of course, is a verse. Reciting the verses like a storm and showing the strength of his vast learning. Nimai Pandit at once memorized all the shlokas without an error. So he heard it one time and memorized the whole thing. He quoted the 64th shloka and pointed out certain rhetorical and literary irregularities. I can't even do that nowadays. I mean, just to be able to hear something one time and be able to pick out particular things. This is the Supreme Lord can do this. He particularly questioned the Pandit's use of the word Bhavani Bharatuhi. He pointed out that the use of this word was redundant. Bhavani means the wife of Shiva, and who else can be her Bharta or husband? He also pointed out several other discrepancies, and the Kashmir Pandit was struck with wonder. I mean, he must have been. He was like, what? This mere boy just is picking out. I mean, he probably never, ever experienced anything like this before. He was astonished that a mere student of grammar could point out the literary mistakes of an erudite scholar. Although this matter was ended prior to any public meeting, the news spread like wildfire all over Navadvip. But finally, Keshava Kashmiri was ordered in a dream by Saraswati, the goddess of learning, to submit to the Lord, and thus the Kashmir Pandit became a follower of the Lord. The Lord was then married with great pomp and gaiety, and at this time he began to preach the congregational chanting of the holy name of the Lord at Navadvip. Some of the Brahmanas became envious of his popularity, and they put many hindrances on his path. They were so jealous that they finally took the matter before the Muslim magistrate at Navadvip. Bengal was then governed by Pathanas, and the governor of the province was Nawaz Hussain Shah. So the Muslims were previously had invaded into India and were governing the Hindus and Indians. Muslim magistrate of Navadvip took up the complaints of the Brahmanas seriously, and at first he warned the followers of Nimai Pandit not to chant loudly at the name of Hari. But Lord Chaitanya asked his followers to disobey the orders of the Qazi. So this is the transcendental civil disobedience. And so it goes to show that, we're not pacifists, but we understand where we will defend the right to chant Krishna's names if we have to protest it. If we ever found ourselves in a situation where the government was trying to block the chanting of Krishna's name. Some countries have done that, where they've tried to block it, Russia and places like that. And they went on with the Sankirtan chanting party as usual. The magistrate then sent constables who interrupted the Sankirtan and broke some of the mridangas, drums. When Nimai Pandit heard of this incident, he organized a party for civil disobedience. He is the pioneer of the civil disobedience movement in India for the right cause. He organized a procession of 100,000 men with thousands of mridangas and kartals, hand cymbals, and the procession passed over the roads of Navadvip in defiance of the Qazi who had issued the order. Finally, the procession reached the house of the Qazi, who went upstairs out of fear of the masses. The great crowds assembled at the Qazi's house displayed a violent temper, but the Lord asked them to be peaceful. So it was a peaceful protest, but chanting, At this time, the Qazi came down and tried to pacify the Lord by addressing him as his nephew. He pointed that Neelam Bara Chakravarti referred to him as an uncle, and consequently Srimati Shachi Devi, the mother of Nimai Pandit, was his sister. He asked the Lord whether his sister's son could be angry at his maternal uncle. And the Lord replied that since the Qazi was his maternal uncle, he should receive his nephew well at his home. In this way, the issue was mitigated, and the two learned scholars began a long discussion on the Quran and Hindu Shastras. The Lord raised the question of cow killing, and the Qazi properly answered him by referring it to the Quran. In turn, the Qazi also questioned the Lord about cow sacrifices in the Vedas, and the Lord replied that such sacrifice as mentioned in the Vedas is not actually cow killing. In that sacrifice, an old bull or cow was sacrificed for the sake of receiving a fresher, younger life by the power of Vedic mantras, which nowadays you don't do, but this was back then. But in the Kali Yuga, such cow sacrifices are forbidden because there are no qualified brahmanas capable of conducting such a sacrifice. In fact, in Kali Yuga, all yajnas, sacrifices, are forbidden because they are useless attempts by foolish men. In Kali Yuga, only the Sankirtan yajna is recommended for all practical purposes. Speaking in this way, the Lord finally convinced the Qazi, who became the Lord's follower. The Qazi therefore declared that no one should hinder the Sankirtan movement, which was started by the Lord, and the Qazi left this order in his will for the sake of the progeny. The Qazi's tomb still exists in the area of Navadvip, and Hindu pilgrims go there to show their respects, because he allowed chanting and he stopped the Muslims from bothering people chanting Krishna's names. The Qazi's descendants are residents, and they never objected to Sankirtan even during the Hindu-Muslim riot days. So there was also another part of this. This is a story of the Chankazi. It's very nice. It's in the Chaitanya Church Amrita. And one thing that was not mentioned in this was the dream after the Qazi broke the drum of the Mridanga. Lord Chaitanya appeared to Chankazi in a dream as Lord Chaitanya was going to rip him to shreds, and he said the Chankazi started begging for mercy, and in his dream, and Lord Nrsingadev said, because you didn't create so much disturbance, I will have mercy on you. But if you ever try to stop the Sankirtan movement again, I will rip he'll rip you to shreds and all of your followers to shreds. So it's a pretty heavy dream. This incident shows clearly that the Lord was not a so-called timid Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is a fearless devotee of the Lord. So, Lord Arjuna, for example, was not a timid devotee. He was a peaceful, kind, and spiritually elevated devotee of God and well-wisher of all being, as a Vaishnava should be. But when it comes to defending the right to chant Krishna's names, to practice, Krishna consciousness, when it is being unfairly blocked or tried to stop or insulted, we are not pacifists. We have to stand up. We have to be fearless and stand up for what's right and defend. And that kind of defending, eating, sleeping, mating, defending your spiritual master from blasphemy and Krishna from blasphemy, and people trying to stop you from chanting, you can defend yourself by ideally, peaceful protests. So we're not encouraging always to be violent or anything. A Vaishnava is a fearless devotee of the Lord, and for the right cause he can take any step suitable for that purpose. Arjuna was also a Vaishnava devotee of Lord Krishna, and he fought valiantly for the satisfaction of the Lord. Similarly, Vajrangaji or Hanuman was also a devotee of Lord Rama and gave lessons to the non-devotee party of Ravana. The principles of Vaishnavism are to satisfy the Lord by all means. A Vaishnava is by nature a non-violent, peaceful living being, and he has all good qualities of God. But when the non-devotee blasphemes the Lord or his devotee, the Vaishnava never tolerates such impudency. After this incident, the Lord began to preach and propagate his Bhagavatam Dharma, or Sankirtan movement, more vigorously, and whoever stood against the propagation of the Yuga Dharma, the duty of the age, was properly punished by various types of chastisement. two Brahmana gentlemen named Chapala and Gopala, who happened to be maternal uncles of the Lord, were inflicted with leprosy by way of chastisement, and later, when they were repentant, they were accepted by the Lord. In the course of his preaching work, he used to send daily all his followers, including Srila Nityananda Prabhu and Thakur Haridas, two chief whips of his party, from door to door to preach Srimad Bhagavatam. All of Navadvip was surcharged with this Sankirtan movement, and his headquarters were situated at the house of Srivas Thakur and Sri Adwaita Prabhu, two of his chief householder disciples. These two learned heads of the Brahmana community were the most ardent followers of Lord Chaitanya's movement. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the chief cause for the advent of the Lord. When Adwaita Prabhu saw that the total human society was full of materialistic activities and devoid of devotional service, which alone could save mankind from the threefold miseries of material existence, he, out of his causeless compassion for the age-worn human society, prayed fervently for the incarnation of the Lord, and continually worshipped the Lord with the waters of the Ganges and leaves of the holy Tulasi tree. As far as preaching work in the Sankirtan movement was concerned, everyone was expected to do his daily share according to the order of the Lord. Once, Nityananda Prabhu and Srila Haridas Thakur were walking down the main road, and on the way they saw a roaring crowd assembled. Upon inquiring from passerby, they understood that two brothers named Jagai and Madai were creating a public disturbance in a drunken state. They also heard that these two brothers were born in a respectable Brahmana family. So I think we brought this up before, people being born in Brahmana families and fall down. So Ajamila was another Brahmana who fell down. And this Jagai and Madai had fallen, were the worst of the worst. Because of their low association, they had turned into debauchees of the worst type. They were not only drunkards, but also meat-eaters, woman hunters, dacoits, and sinners of all descriptions. So rapists, murderers, they were the worst. Srila Nityananda Prabhu heard all of these stories and decided that these two fallen souls must be the first to be delivered. So Lord Chaitanya is known also as Patita Pavana, the savior of the fallen souls. So this is Lord Nityananda was acting out Lord Chaitanya's mission. If they were to be delivered from their sinful life, then the good name of the Lord Chaitanya would be even still more glorified. Thinking in this way, Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas pushed their way through the crowd and asked the two brothers to chant the holy name of Lord Hari. The drunken brothers became enraged upon this request and attacked Nityananda Prabhu with filthy language. Both brothers chased them a considerable distance. In the evening, the report of the preaching work was submitted to the Lord, and he was glad to learn that Nityananda and Haridas had attempted to deliver such a stupid pair of fellows. The next day, Nityananda Prabhu went to see the brothers, and as soon as he approached them, one of them threw a piece of earthen pot at him. This struck him on the forehead, and immediately blood began to flow. But Nityananda Prabhu was so kind that instead of protesting this heinous act, he said, "It does not matter that you have thrown the stone at me. I still request you to chant the holy name of Lord Hari." One of the brothers, Jagai, was astonished to see this behavior of Nityananda Prabhu. He once fell down at his feet and asked him to pardon his sinful brother. So even at a very fallen soul, Lord Nityananda used to have these, while he was out with Haridas Thakur, him and the devotees, they would have these chanting parties every night, and Jagai and Madai would be outside drinking, but they would be making fun and chanting and dancing and getting on, being all drunk and everything. But that was a purifying effect but also of just being in the association of Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur. When Madai again attempted to hurt Nityananda Prabhu, Jagai stopped him and implored him to fall down at his feet. In the meantime, the news of Nityananda's injury reached the Lord, who at once hurried to the spot in a fiery and angry mood. The Lord immediately invoked his Shudan chakra, the Lord's ultimate weapon, shaped like a wheel. So, Sudarsana chakra, Lord Chaitanya, Krishna, has this chakra that is constantly with him. And of course, Lord Chaitanya, being so angry at Nityananda being hit by was going to kill these two sinners. But Nityananda Prabhu reminded him of his mission. The mission of the Lord was to deliver the hopelessly fallen souls of Kali Yuga, and the brothers Jagai and Madai were typical examples of these fallen souls. 90% of the population of this age resembles these brothers. It's so true. Despite high birth and mundane respectability, according to the verdict of the revealed scriptures, the total population of this world in this age will be of the lowest Shudra quality or even lower. So we have this states of Varna, right? You have the Brahmana caste, and you have the Kshatriya caste, and you have the mercantile or the Vaishya caste, and then you have a Shudra, which is a workers caste, which is the lowest mode of ignorance, but there's even lower than below the Shudras, because even Shudras are engaging in their Vedic duties. These are called Chandalas, or dog eaters. It should be noted that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never acknowledged the stereotyped caste system by birthright. Rather, he strictly followed the verdict of the Shastras in the matters of one's Swarup, or real identity. So nowadays there is a lot of talks about untouchables and caste systems by birth, and if you're born in a Brahmana and you can't associate with this other caste, and there are actually terrible things that are happening. They created a new caste that was the untouchable caste that nobody could relate to or touch. You'd be outcasted if you were touching them or relating to them. So this is why Bhaktivedanta makes this point, that this is not the caste system, the Varnashram system that should be followed. When the Lord was invoking his Sudarshan chakra and Srila Nityananda Prabhu was imploring him to forgive the two brothers, both the brothers fell down at the lotus feet of the Lord and begged his pardon for their gross behavior. The Lord was also asked by Nityananda Prabhu to accept these repenting souls, and the Lord agreed to accept them on one condition, that they henceforth completely give up all their sinful activities and habits of debauchery. Both the brothers agreed and promised to give up all their sinful habits, and the kind Lord accepted them and did not again refer to their past misdeeds. This is a specific kindness of Lord Chaitanya. In this age, no one can say that he is free from sin. It is impossible for anyone to say this, but Lord Chaitanya accepts all kinds of sinful persons on the one condition, that they promise not to indulge in sinful habits after being spiritually initiated by the bona fide spiritual master. There are a number of instructive points to be observed in this incident of the two brothers. In this Kali Yuga, practically all people are of the quality of Jagai and Madai. If they want to be relieved from the reactions of their misdeeds, they must take shelter of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and after spiritual initiation, thus refrain from those things which are prohibited in the Shastras. The prohibitory rules are dealt with in the Lord's teachings to Srila Rupa Goswami. And I think we'll stop there, continue on next time, and further into the introduction. Very exciting, wonderful story. I recommend if you can get a summary of the Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Bhaktivedanta's teaching of Lord Chaitanya, or you can buy the set of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which I recommend also. I've read that as well. It's maybe one day, maybe if not this life, maybe another life, I'll do a class on Chaitanya Charitamrita. But we have a lot to work with right now, so thank you very much. Namaste.